I'm Alex Waldron. You already know that. You have that on your list. But on the table in front of you, you should have two documents. One gives you an overview in a sort of plain format on a single sheet of 6 through 10, and that was this year's changed and adapted curriculum. And then the other document that you have is a curriculum map guide from 11 through to 12. The only things that you'll see missing from here are the electives. That's largely because we've started to move them in and out every other year from next year onwards. So it seemed unnecessary for this meeting. Okay, so a little bit about how we design the curriculum in English. Generally speaking, for 6 through 8, we design it such that chronologically it mirrors what history are doing. So you'll see noted on the 6 through 10 sheet which of the issues that history is covering we're trying to align with in each case. You'll see that in brackets underneath. After that, 9 through 10, it becomes a mixture of chronology and topic and theme. So that's where it starts to cross over. You'll notice some mismatch in time and era, but it might, in brackets, cross over with the themes and the topics that are being covered. That's because the range of literature that we'd like to cover doesn't necessarily box itself into neat little year packages by the time we get into high school. So we tend to align it in a mixture of those ways. Then when we get into 11 through 12, we really are just thematically linking. 11, we do cross over with the survey of American literature, so some of the same issues as the history department are there. But certainly in 12, we're then all for ourselves by that point. Glamorous assistant, could you change the slide, please? So that's just one of the changes that we're making next year to try and challenge the aspirations of the brightest of our students. And the other two things that you see on the screen there, we are changing as well. So AP Literature previously has been available to any year group, as has AP Lang. We want to separate it out. The reason for us doing this is we had 7 students take AP Literature this year and 55 took AP Language. There is some strange preconceived notion that it's easier, I think, amongst students, and they are horribly disappointed when they get there to find the reading load is exactly the same. So to try and level this out, we've split it so that from this year, 11th grade will be able to take literature and 12th grade to take language. That will, as of the year after next, hopefully have balanced it such that we've funneled the kids from 11 through to 12 and we have a greater spread of classes. The third thing that I've put up there was a bit cheeky of me because I know that we're in discussions, he's laughing. In English, I'm really, really keen that everything that we deliver and offer is academically appropriate for AMSA's aspirations, which sounds like, yes, that's obvious, but there are things that we give credit for, such as yearbook, which I feel may be better done as perhaps an advisory. So we're looking at reshaping the offerings that we have. Not sure how that would look, but that's why I put reassess rather than actually doing it, because I do need the blessing of management.
I have a question about the AP Lit and AP Lang. So I understand, you've explained why they're being separated. Why that order? Because I understood that a lot of other schools nationwide do it the other way around.
You're absolutely right, they do. This crosses the norm.
Yeah.
There are 2 reasons for us doing this. One was a practical numerical reason, in that most of the students that this year, that huge balloon of AP Lang was actually mostly 11th grade. And so for us to do it the other way seemed counterintuitive. But then when we sat down and really thought about it, if we're preparing students to be successful in AP Literature, through 6 through 10, we've been drilling them on analytical writing, critical writing, which is a natural progression to AP Lit. The rhetorical aspects of things, they need almost a higher and different way of thinking, and they can cope better when they're older. So that's the justification.
Okay.
Glamorous assistant?
Can I ask you a question? I've got a
Yes, of course.
So could you just go back to the previous slide? So does it make sense to announce this for not next year but the year after? Like, I think about individuals who now they're going into 12th grade and the only thing that's available to them is AP Language, but they don't, now they don't have a chance to do literature. So I just wonder, did you talk about the idea of giving folks one more year to get settled?
Yeah, we've grandfathered it.
So you did
This year
grandfather.
is the transition. I forgot to mention that.
Yeah, okay.
Apologies. The 12th graders are allowed for this year only to do either one of their choices.
Okay.
And the 11ths only have literature.
Okay, thanks.
So that helps to funnel
That's
through
of
smoothly.
course correct.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's fair enough. That sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, so in line with what you were just talking about, actually, about pursuing your excellence, this is English's, there you go, score 1 point. This is English's version of doing that, achieving that. Our department mission is now to push every student towards being an expert writer. And what we mean by that really is that even if they're not scoring A's all across the board, they'll be their own expert writer in their own ability level. And to do this, we've done several things. The first thing is that we've always had talented teachers in the English department, and we know that. But these last 2 years, we've especially sought out people who are literature and writing minded. So all our recent intake, just to keep that going, because we really do have some experts within our field. And we want to retain that, so we've actively looked to keep that up. We found that there's a challenge for us between 8th grade and 9th grade writing, and it seemed like, I think this might be in other subjects too, where they seem unready for the challenges that are presented to them and expected of them when they reach 9th grade. And so what we're trying to achieve here is that 6 through 8 now have a new set of writing skills focuses, whichever one you want to use. And that is displayed on, I think, Grammar Assistant, the next slide. There it is. It's a bit teeny tiny, I apologise, but you can just about see down the left-hand side the main areas that we are asking in our brand new rubrics, all of our teachers, to help them specialise in. This document is used as an overview for an entire research or critical essay. So the idea is that the teacher could specify just 2 or 3 of these elements for one assignment if they're trying to build mastery and skill in a particular area of critical writing. And so recently we rolled this out, maybe only 2 weeks ago, and asked everybody to use this document every time from now on as a trial. And we will get back together in our department meetings regularly, and we will norm or standardise. So we've already started sharing what we think A grade looks like, and then we practiced using this to see if our baseline is actually where we think it is. I think only by having a shared understanding of what makes an A, what makes a B, a C, only then can we know that we are consistently teaching kids how we want them to write through 6, 7, 8, and then into 9. It stops the shock factor, and hopefully it actually makes them genuinely expert writers by the time they leave college ready. Next slide, please. Okay, so as part of our consolidation to approaching writing, there's a few other things that we wanted to do. I've already talked about the second there, but the first one, sharing expertise. As I was saying, we do have some amazing writers in our department. So we've started asking them to teach each other as part of meetings. So we had Mr. McDonald, we had Mr. Smith doing the last ones, and they gave us some tips and tricks, teacher to teacher, how you might scaffold things, how you might push writers and help them edit, to peer review, all the methods that they use to make expert writing happen. The third one there, kind of an ugly word to a lot of people. Traditionally, certainly in recent decades, there's been a push away from teaching grammar explicitly, and I think that's a shame. If you don't know the mechanics, if you don't have a shared understanding of the vocabulary needed to talk about grammar, you can't fix grammar, which means you can't use it, you can't edit it. And so I have asked everybody who teaches 6 through 8 explicitly at least one time a week to teach an aspect of grammar that they've seen is perhaps troubling their particular class. It still happens in the upper school, but I haven't been so prescriptive. Teachers there have the flexibility to react to what they see as a problem in the writing that they're receiving from their students. The fourth one there, we are trying to expand our use of source libraries such as JSTOR, the other kind of humanities-based databases that are out there and free for use through the Boston Public Library. The reason for that is we've always done research projects. That's been a central tenet of English forever, but we haven't really dedicated much time to just learning ways of searching for things, using the capital and, putting things in brackets, using synonyms, all these tricks. So we're actually spending time trying to get their ability to craft these amazing sophisticated papers using these databases. Next slide, please. Okay, so here's where I try and sell you what would be nice to have and what we're trying to develop in the future. Okay, so next slide, please. Here are 2 things that we're trying to do to make immersive learning happen. There's never really been English trips except for the theatre occasionally. We've sometimes done that, and that's great. We will continue to do that. More if we can, if it's not disruptive to the school environment. But for the first time, we're actually going to try an English overnight, week-long trip. This was the idea of our new recruit, Mr. Hill, and he wanted to take the AP thinkers. They don't even have to be doing AP, but maybe we will inspire them to do AP literature. EF do a tour to the UK where they take you to the sites of inspiration for some of the literature that's on the examinations. So they can hear it read and they can see the setting and they can practice writing. Pretty excited about that idea. Next slide, please. Number 2 thing that we'd love to do. We want to foster a growth mindset. What we mean by this is helping students to understand that getting it wrong doesn't just work for things like math and science and experiments. Writing is also an experiment, and it's a revision process. We tend to get a draft, it'll be given to us, and they'll wash their hands of it, and then they don't want to edit it any further. But crafting writing is a mastery process. And so to do this, we want to put a document camera in every classroom. Those are very cheap. I can put them into the English budget very easily. And those are the things where you can just zoom in on someone's writing that they've done in class right in front of you. And you can collectively look at it, and you can pick it apart, and you can edit it live, so they can watch the process. We also want to teach proofreading and revision skills. One of the ways we've done this is that 6th grade is changing slightly next year. They've always had this strange 1.5 block, where every other day there's a double. And it only happens in 6th grade for English, no other grades. We thought, what do we do with that extra half, that extra lesson? So we're making a study skills curriculum. It'll be labeled differently on their timetable. It'll show up on their schedule as study skills. They'll know to expect that. And guidance are going to team up with us to come and guest teach for those skills as well. Yeah, so the last one. One day, it was just a kind of... I wanted to leave you with a really nice dream in the ether. I know there used to be a library. We clearly don't have space. You may have seen that we built, mostly thanks to Mr. MacDonald actually, a temporary honesty library where the library used to be. It's like a ghost of a library. Little green stickers, and kids can just come and take and leave books as they wish, just to try and foster some reading spirit. But one day, who knows, maybe there could be a research assistant librarian that could help with all those things. You would love it too. I can see it on your face.
Absolutely.
History,
Speaking to me.
Wonderful. I want to leave you with that idea. That's it. Thank you. I will take questions.
Are there questions or comments?
Yes.
Go ahead.
So first question,
Yes.
first comment is the passion is contagious.
I hope so.
So thank you for that. I want to go to the UK too. Also, we heard, and it's great to be hearing it from different departments. One thing that I think makes SAMHSA stand out is the cross-pollination we see in the departments. And we've heard a lot of examples of that over the last couple of months. Do you have any comments about that happening with English?
Yes, actually, there is a course. He's nodding at me. It's very exciting. Did they already hear about this?
No, they don't.
No? Ooh, okay. So there is not just a dual cross-curricular course, but it's 3 different subjects in one course with me, Dr. Duray, and Dr. Lewis, all teaching in combination across our subjects. It's called The Vitruvian Man, and it's going to cover 4 key people through history who are scientific innovators. I'm going to cover the literature that they inspired and surrounds them. Obviously, you're going to cover the background, the society around them, and then, of course, we have our resident scientist expert to tell us why they made an impact in science. So we're pretty excited about that happening. That's a seniors-only course. I really do think that it should happen more frequently. I know that the history department is pretty keen, where possible, to collaborate with us when we're planning, etc., when we're looking at curriculum, and it should happen as much as possible. Yeah.
Thank you.
Sounds great.
Any other questions or comments? I have a comment. I'm very
I do too.
excited by the idea of the emphasis on writing, and just want to make the comment that, I think that scientists and people going, who are academics, I don't think they realize how much writing is required. The PhDs that I work with, in industry and in academia, these guys, they're writing grants like crazy, right? I don't think people realize, if you're going into science, how much you're writing grants. So those writing skills are really important. I think it's just too easy for kids who think, I'm a math science kid, I don't know how to write well, to discount the value of that. And it's actually very critical for their future success.
Great.
So,
I would just say the exact same thing. I'm really happy that you're focusing on grammar. Really happy you're focusing on it. Just as an example, myself, I was a math kid, and I did English minimal amount of English, minimum amount of writing. I took the classes that I would have to do the least amount. And when I started working in public relations, as a finance professional, I had a CEO and a mentor who was, grammar was her pet peeve. So if she did not receive something that was written properly, she would eviscerate you. And this is a CEO, and I was 30 years old, Grammar for Dummies. I went to the store, I bought Grammar for Dummies, I read that thing from cover to cover 4 times. And it helped me so much in my career, and again, a math person. So I'm so glad you're doing that. And my son still corrects me all the time on my grammar.
Great. I love it.
All the time.
Yeah. I love it when they correct signs that they see. You're like, oh, Miss Waldron, I saw this sign, there was no apostrophe,
Yes.
it was awful.
Yes. Yes.
I read a really cool article the other day about Jeff Bezos and Amazon, and that he's been playing around with the idea at the executive level to get rid of PowerPoint presentations. And that folks are, did you read this article? And that folks are now required to create a narrative, to write a multi-page narrative about whatever they want to do. And they're beginning those executive meetings by giving folks 30-minute reading period to read all the narratives and then have a discussion. And that he felt that PowerPoints are just the obliteration of that. And what you really need to do is be able to influence through these narratives. So I just thought that's what's happening in the boardroom now at Amazon. So I thought that's interesting.
That's interesting. I'm going to use that. Thank you.
It's the article's right out there.
Yeah, and actually Amazon's doing that. It's inspiring us where I am. We're doing that.
It's out there. It's interesting. Good articles.
If I could just make 2 quick comments. This was fantastic, and the passion, the excitement is contagious. It really is. I loved what you were sharing about treating this as an experiment. Writing as an experiment, because it's so easy not to. I heard a professor just speak the other day about, writing is probably one of the most important skills, because it teaches you to think and really clarify your thinking and refine it and so forth, and that's through experimentation and so forth. So that's fantastic. And I love the other thing about visiting the UK and tying reality kind of outside of the classroom with this, because I think it can inspire some kids to no end. So that's fantastic to hear. Yep.
I love the look of the rubric that you have so far, because we've had a lot of similar conversations in the history department about writing in the same issues of grammar and just being able to write something more formal, and all the research stuff too is wonderful. And I don't know, Anders, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like there's a lot we can team up on.
I was going to say, let's collaborate.
Yes,
Let's collaborate.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Awesome.
Does anybody diagram sentences anymore?
That is a contentious issue. They don't, and they should, is my response to that. There are some of our teachers actually who take pleasure in that. Mr. MacDonald, unfortunately losing him, but he is one of those. Miss Rousseau is very good at it. Yes, there are some in there that take great pleasure in it because they see the value in it. That does not say that the others can't. It's not part of their normal practice. They prefer other methods. But yeah, I would like to promote that.
Takes you back to 7th grade.
I'll sign up for the class.
I just want to thank Ms. Waldron. She's a fantastic department chair, a great colleague to work for, an amazing and very inspiring teacher, and you saw that today. And she's also done a great job rebuilding the English department after years of much change, and she really has an absolutely fantastic and very strong department, and it's due to her relentless effort and incredible passion. So thank you.